off in our number 10 spot, we have the OMAGH photo. This photo was taken on August 15th, 1998 in the town of OMAGH, which is located in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, however, aside from this photo looking extremely pleasant, it has a terrible story attached. The red car you see in the photo unfortunately had an explosive device placed in it by a group that called themselves the Real Irish Republican Army, who were a group that opposed the IRA's ceasefire as well as the Good Friday Agreement, which had been signed earlier in 1998. This photograph was taken just before the explosion went off, and while the dad and the daughter that can be seen in the photo thankfully survived, sadly the person who took the photo did not, and it was recovered from their camera in the aftermath of the explosion. This photo is an extremely eerie and haunting reminder of that terrible day. In our number 8 spot today, we have Bikini Island. Bikini in the Marshall Islands was once inhabited by around 170 islanders until 1945 rolled around. The US president at the time, Harry Truman, ordered that the military continue to test nuclear weapons just in case they were needed in the future, since this was just shortly after the end of World War II. Unfortunately, Bikini was the place that was chosen to be the testing site, since all planes and ships traveled on routes that weren't close to the area. The residents of the island were asked to vacate, quote, for the good of mankind and to end all world wars, to which they of course obliged, under the impression that they would one day be able to move back. Test weapons were detonated on the reef itself, on the sea, in the air, and underwater, and this photo shows what was happening during just one of those tests, and it wasn't even the largest one. Although the former residents of Bikini were promised that they would one day be able to return home, the island still remains uninhabited because of the mass amounts of radiation that still exists there. In our number 8 spot today, we have this huge grasshopper. This photo is allegedly undoctored, or at least that's what people once believed, but as it turns out, this photo actually comes from a line of joke postcards. Thank God. Apparently it was a hilarious hit back in the day to create postcards depicting a super ungodly large kind of grasshopper, like the kind that would make me line up first for a trip to Mars if I saw one hopping around here on Earth. Or should I say, leaping. Like for a second, just imagine. With how high regular tiny grasshoppers can jump, this thing would be jumping into the clouds for sure. Also, like, what would it eat? No thank you to large bugs, especially ones that can jump. I'm just so glad that this one turned out to be fake. Even though it's fake, I wish this was still one that they withheld from the public. And our number 7 spot today, we have these Prohibition barrels. The Prohibition was the outlaw of the consumption of alcohol, which was done with a ban being placed on the production, importation, transportation, and sale of alcohol by the US government from 1920 to 1933. This ban certainly did not stop people from producing or consuming alcohol, it was just done in sneakier ways. The black market for alcohol was booming as people began to drink redistilled industrial alcohol instead. This photo shows how big the black market industry for alcohol was, as it shows a massive stack of liquor barrels that were collected by the authorities in 1924 about to be set ablaze. The people look so tiny standing next to this insane amount of alcohol. While the Prohibition is generally regarded as a failure, the biggest failure it caused was the unintended organized crime it put into life in America. In our number 6 spot today, we have this neighborhood nuclear test. This photo shows a mother and her young son looking out the window and witnessing a nuclear test explosion from the comfort of their own home in 1953. Like, what? Imagine seeing that from your window now in 2021. People would be going wild. Of course, any kind of nuclear test should be done as far away from where people live as possible. I know it's not like the test was being done in their front yard or anything, but still, I certainly wouldn't be comfortable with them testing a nuclear bomb anywhere near the place I live. This photo was of course taken before the effects of nuclear radiation from these kind of explosions were publicly understood. Actually, people have suggested that the public knowledge of these kinds of side effects were suppressed during this time in order to avoid controversy about them testing these kinds of weapons in your neighborhood. While that would of course be something insane to witness firsthand, thankfully the now widely known health risks associated with this sort of thing has caused this to not be a common occurrence. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Boston Marathon. This photo comes to us from 1967 and it depicts the struggles that Catherine Switzer went through in order to be the first female to finish the Boston Marathon. This photo shows race organizers as well as other participants participants, trying to stop her from running the marathon that she trained for and was more than capable of completing. She has written a book that explains in great detail all the things she went through that day, and how the critiques and opinions about a woman running the race started even before she had registered to run. People in our history like Catherine are incredibly important, as well as photos like these, because they show when people were literally trying to drag her down, she just kept on running. In our number 4 spot today, we have a traffic jam. On Sunday, September 3rd, 1967, Sweden changed from driving on the left-hand side of the road to driving on the right-hand side of the road. Why? Well, I'm not exactly sure, considering people downvoted the idea before it was implemented, and it cost a ton of money to make the switch. Not to mention it's also super confusing for basically everyone, and when we're talking about driving, the simpler the better. Traffic lights had to be reversed, road signs changed, intersections redesigned, lines on the roads repainted, buses modified, and bus stops moved. What happened when the change was implemented? Well, that's what this photo will show you. Absolute chaos. However, after the initial shock, things did start to get better, as because drivers were much more cautious in the time following the switch, the number of traffic accidents actually dropped for a little while, before inevitably rising again. Was the switch worth it? Well, no one is sure about that, but what are they gonna do? Change it back? In our number 3 spot today, we have the 3 Jacksons. On August 21st, 1934, 3 fearless acrobats known as the 3 Jacksons, Charlie Smith, Jewel Waddick, and Jimmy Kerrigan, all performed a routine on the edge of the Empire State Building, which is when this photo was captured. It is said that these 3 toured as an acrobatic trio, and this stunt the photo captured was done at 1,245 feet. According to officials from the Empire State Building, it is said that this was the first time the stunt was attempted, and to this day, it has never been done again, which makes a lot of sense. While this photo is absolutely incredible and is such a testament not only to the trust they shared, but also their abilities as acrobats, I don't know who in their right mind would try to recreate this. We already have one, and I think we can just all be happy with that. In our number 2 spot today, we have the man who fell from space. Vladimir Komarov was a cosmonaut, Soviet test pilot, and aerospace engineer. He was one of the most highly experienced and qualified people, which is exactly why he was chosen for some of the very first space missions. He became the first Soviet cosmonaut to fly into space twice. Unfortunately, however, on one of these missions, things went seriously awry. A parachute failure caused his capsule to crash into the ground after re-entry on the 24th of April in 1967. He literally fell from space, and regardless of if you know anything about space and re-entry, that would have been absolutely terrifying and awful. He of course didn't make it, but the entire process left his remains almost unrecognizable. This photo shows his colleagues looking onto his remains before he was laid to rest. The contributions of people like Vladimir have allowed us to go further into space and understand more than we ever could have imagined. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Gadget. This photo shows the first ever atomic bomb, and it comes to us from 1945. Called the Gadget, this bomb was an implosion plutonium device that was detonated in the Trinity test in 1945. This photo shows someone sitting next to it so casually, like it's a PB&J sandwich and not this world-changing device. The Trinity test was the very first time a nuclear weapon was detonated, and the Gadget was actually the same design as the bomb that was later detonated over Nagasaki, Japan on August 9th, 1945. There's such an eerie nature about this photo and the seemingly casual behavior of the man next to it. Did he know what this was about to unleash? Perhaps, but maybe not.
Coming in at number 10, we have a ghost in Cepheus. This looks like a ghost in the ether for sure. It's actually a rather mysterious dusty curtain featuring a very faint reflection of nebula VDB 152. The reddish tinge you see is ultraviolet light from a star causing a rusty looking luminescence in the nebula dust. Described as a cosmic phantom, this picture was released by NASA on Halloween in 2012 and titled A Ghost in Cepheus. This intergalactic ghost is 1,400 light years away, so arguably a safe enough distance for us to deal with. Who knows how fast this ethereal dust can travel though? Also, who knows what this dust is like up close? I don't trust it. Dust it.
In our number 9 spot today, we have the radio telescope. This is a photo of what was once a secret but is now considered a huge celebratory work. This photo was taken during the construction of China's 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope. This huge dish was constructed in a natural depression in the landscape and is the world's largest filled aperture radio telescope. The design is absolutely novel, which is why, while the telescope was first proposed in 1994, construction didn't start until 2011. It first observed light in 2016, and after years of testing, it was declared fully operational in January of 2020. If you're interested in space, you'll know exactly why this is such a fascinating and exciting creation. This radio telescope can give us beautifully sensitive observations that could help in the hunt for gravitational waves and give us more information of the mysterious and fleeting blasts of radiation that are known as fast radio bursts. Every step in the world of space exploration could have some wild implications on our world, and it's all very cool. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Pentagon crash. We have all heard about the devastating September 11th, 2001 attacks, but some of you might not know that on that day, there were actually a few separate coordinated attacks, all a part of the same plan, and one of those attacks was on the Pentagon. This photo was previously classified but eventually was released by the US government, and it shows the absolute devastation that was done by the commercial plane that crashed into the Pentagon building. The plane was able to tear through all 5 rings that existed in the building. All of the people on board the plane that day, as well as 125 people that were in the building at the time, passed away in this horrible event. For obvious reasons, the initial photos of the Pentagon damage were withheld from the public or from circulating in the media, but now that they have been released, it just shows us all another side to that horrible, terrifying day. In our number 7 spot today, we have Operation HIGHJUMP. This photo was taken in the late 1940s during Operation HIGHJUMP. This was a United States Navy operation that was aimed to establish the Antarctic research base Little America 4. It is said that the goals of this mission were to train personnel and test equipment in frigid conditions, determine the feasibility of establishing and utilizing bases in the Antarctic, as well as scoping out possible base sites, examining and amplifying the existing stores of knowledge of several different kinds of conditions in the area, such as geological, geographical, and meteorological, and this final one, which was initially denied, but apparently also to consolidate and extend the United States sovereignty over the largest practical area of the Antarctic continent. This final one was publicly denied for quite some time. This photo shows one of the ships belonging to the United States Navy stuck between 2 of the Arctic's icebergs. In our number 6 spot today, we have a UFO report. This photo is of a previously classified document from 1963. Although the document still has a lot of information that has been blacked out, the document is the description and report of an unidentified flying object or UFO encounter. This is said to have taken place over the desert of Nevada, and the report was written in detail in order to have a written record of this event. The document is said to be the authentic report from the FBI, which is exactly why some of the details have been omitted. This might seem like less of a big deal now, as in this day and age we have declassified video footage of similar kinds of encounters, but for 1963 this was huge, as discussions of alien or extraterrestrial life is a big part of our modern society. This document shows that these things have been on our minds for many years now. In our number 5 spot today, we have a flying saucer. Speaking of aliens and UFOs, one place on Earth that has a multitude of alien stories coming from it is of course none other than Area 51. This site is no stranger to conspiracy theories, and this declassified photo taken at the location might give us a little insight into how these theories began. This photo clearly shows a strange disc-like object next to some more regular looking planes, and I mean, to be fair, if we saw that disc flying through the air, it does resemble the flying saucer type UFO that used to be talked about in the mainstream as the preferred alien mode of transportation. As it turns out, this photo is actually of an experimental aircraft that was made by the United States Air Force, of course, which is why the letters USAF can be seen on the craft. This was one of the few aircrafts created for the purpose of trying out various air carriers. Similar ones to this were also created by the government and were actually seen flying over the southwest region of the United States, which surely only contributed to the UFO discussions. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Soviet spacecraft. This photo shows the construction of the Soviet Buran spacecraft. Apparently, this was the spacecraft that was built in response to the news spilled by Richard Nixon in 1972 that the United States was to build its own brand new spacecraft, which was to be designed by NASA. The Buran was the first spaceplane to be produced as part of the Soviet-Russian Buran program, and in 1988 it actually went on to complete an unmanned spaceflight that was extremely successful. Unfortunately, this craft met its demise in 2002 when the storage hangar it was located in collapsed. The Buran program was suspended prior to this collapse because of a lack of funds and the political situation in the Soviet Union. The collapse was because of structural failure that was caused by poor maintenance, and unfortunately the spacecraft wasn't the only casualty. In far worse news, 8 workers also lost their lives that day. In our number 3 spot today we have Area 51 Part 2. This is another photo that was taken from Area 51, and it shows another kind of spacecraft that is likely the source of many UFO stories. At this point, Area 51 will likely always be a place that is filled with rumors of our wildest imaginations, even if they were to one day start offering tours of the facility. Rumors span from aliens to mermaids and so much more, and it is believed that the US government is intentionally keeping it all a secret from us. Since the infamous Roswell incident that happened in 1947, the Nevada Air Force Base is going to be the source of many a mystery. While I don't know the exact details of what is going on in this photo, this is just another small insight into what goes on within the mysterious walls of Area 51. In our number 2 spot today we have this nuclear waste facility. For another Nevada mystery, high up in the mountains of Yucca, there is a super top secret location that has details which are not to be released to the public. I guess that was probably implied when I said the word secret. The reason this facility is so secret is because it is said to hold all of America's nuclear waste. This waste repository was designated by the Nuclear Policy Act amendments of 1987, and basically it is a deep geological repository storage facility. While the project was approved in 2002 by the 107th United States Congress, as of April 14, 2011, federal funding for the site came to an end. This site was the focus of many fights, as there were tons of people who were extremely opposed to it. The closure of the site has left the United States government and American nuclear power plants without any designated long-term storage facility. This photo is said to have come from the site of the nuclear waste storage facility. In our number 1 spot today we have The Experiment. This photo is an example of how, for a long time, the United States has done its best to stay on top of all of the latest kinds of technology and the most cutting-edge equipment. This photo is showing some kind of test that was being done on a prototype ejection seat. While this was once a classified photo, of course back when this was new technology, the Central Intelligence Agency has since released the photos in order to provide information on the technology that was being created during what now seems like the olden days of science. These times truly are not far off at all, and it's incredible to see how far we've come in so little time. This photo serves as a super cool reminder of just how technologically advanced we really are, although sometimes we may take that for granted.
Starting off this countdown, we have the plot to kill. This photo was taken of Thomas Bart Whittaker on the left and his younger brother Kevin on the right, just hours before Thomas planned to have his family killed. So apparently the two brothers were just goofing off and their mother wanted to take a photo of them. Then later they went out for dinner as like a little celebration for Thomas completing his exams, which was a lie. Anyways, while they were at the restaurant, Thomas had his friend enter his home and retrieve a gun and stage a burglary. He then waited at the front door for Thomas's family to return home. Once they did, he shot Thomas's mom and brother. His dad managed to survive. The photo shows Thomas's happy younger brother, but little did he know that his older brother literally had a plot to kill him. It's so disturbing. In our 9th spot, we have the aliens. It seems like NASA and Area 51 might be hiding aliens. What's new? The photo I'm about to share with you is a leaked photo of aliens hidden in Area 51. The photo was taken in the 1980s, and years later someone leaked it online. I don't know about you, but that looks exactly like a space alien to me. And it looks like they're running some sort of tests on them or something. Now of course, people think that this photo is fake. Go ahead, believe whatever. Just know that there are tons of individuals that believe it to be real. Plus it's never been debunked. Take what you want for that. Coming in at number 8, we have the second sun. According to astronomer Paul Cox, there is a second sun in our solar system, and NASA is keeping it a secret. Why would they do that? I don't know, because they can. So Paul discovered this after using his telescope to stare at the planets. He actually live streamed him doing this, and while doing so, he pointed to a black dot, which was Mercury. He said that this was the location of the second sun. He said, and I quote, "You may be asking yourself, what is that large round thing to the right of the sun? Well, that's our second sun. I don't know if you knew that we had a second sun, but there it is. It is normally hidden from view. NASA and other organizations usually hide that stuff away from us." Now, I don't know why NASA would hide this from us, but apparently they are, and there's a second sun out there. In our 7th spot, we have the SpaceX explosion. Back in 2020, a NASA worker leaked video and photographic evidence of a SpaceX explosion. NASA was furious when they found out and sent out a memo to all workers saying that they would be fired if they publicly shared photos and videos from the Space Center again. And then someone leaked that memo. Anyways, NASA was all like, nah, nothing happened, nothing exploded. Then the video surfaced and they're like, oh snap, we're caught. It started when people saw smoke coming over the Space Coast and were like, what's going on over there? And NASA failed to properly explain. But like I said, things got leaked and they were exposed. In our 6th spot, we have Planet X. So astronomer Paul Cox says that NASA has proof of Planet X. It's a broken planet that is behind the sun that he believes will eventually crash into Earth and wipe out all of humanity. But obviously, NASA doesn't want anyone to know this, which is why they're hiding it from all of us. And I genuinely hope that this isn't true, and that Paul's lying, and that he knows nothing, because that's terrifying. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the trees on Mars. A weird shot taken of Mars revealed what looked like dark trees rising from the surface. Like, it straight up looks like trees and shrubs are growing there, which we know isn't possible. So then, what is it? Well, NASA says that it's just an optical illusion and it's not actually trees. But other people think that NASA is trying to already grow things on Mars, or that this is part of an alien structure. Who knows? But NASA's being hella sketchy with this photo. In our 4th spot, we have the lady on Mars. In 2007, people went nuts when the Spirit rover snapped this eerie photo on the planet. It literally looks like a human figure perched on a rock. Now NASA immediately denied this and said that, it's just a rock. But that didn't stop UFO enthusiasts. They believe that this rock is actually a female figure made by aliens, or that it is an alien. Like, look at that. How can that be a rock? Like, there's fully arms and clothing on it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. Nice try, NASA. Better luck next time. That's a woman. In our 3rd spot, we have the space guests. A couple of years ago, a Russian cosmonaut aboard the International Space Station noticed 3 unusual lights fly by their craft. Thankfully, they got it on film. The cosmonaut believes that what he saw and captured was indeed a UFO flying by. He said, and I quote, 5 objects appear flying alongside with the same distance. What do you think those are? Meteors, satellites, or ... The lights are in a straight line and apparently were hanging around that area for almost a minute before disappearing. He has no explanation for it besides it being a UFO spacecraft. In our 2nd spot, we have the alien statue. In 2019, NASA accidentally leaked some photos that we shouldn't have been able to see. So they released photos taken by their Mars robot Opportunity. In one of the shots, someone pointed out that there appears to be a dark object near one of Mars's craters. It looks like this object has a long arm, a bulky chest, and 2 leg fragments. One person said, and I quote, "It looks like an actual statue. There seems to be so many anomaly stones on Mars that at some point one must admit that sometimes a rock is an ancient artifact." Whereas others believe that this is an alien's corpse that is decomposing. But what do you think? It certainly looks like an alien to me. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the alien city. So there's a theory out there that aliens do actually live on the moon. However, they inhabit the dark side of the moon, aka the side of the moon facing away from us that we can't see. Well, a man named Scott Waring found physical evidence to prove this. He obtained satellite images from the dark side of the moon and saw that the moon has structures that cast shadows. Take a look for yourself. If you zoom into the photos, you can see a bunch of weird objects on the moon's surface. That's not the normal texture of the moon. Those those look like structures. So he believes that aliens are for sure on the moon and that NASA has been covering it up for years. Not only that, but the images that NASA chose to share with the public had been altered so that the objects were edited out. And then NASA added fake craters in that location. Why would they do that? Huh? That's suspicious. Yeah, that's hella sus.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the TSAR bomb. This is a photo that was taken on October 30th, 1961. It was quite the Halloween spooky fright that year, as this is said to be the largest and most powerful nuclear weapon ever created and tested. The hydrogen aerial bomb was developed in the Soviet Union by a group of nuclear physicists that were under the leadership of Igor Kurchatov. The bomb was dropped by parachute and was detonated autonomously. While this test was meant to be a secret, it turned out to be less than well kept, as it was obviously a huge explosion that was detected by United States intelligence agencies. A secret US recon aircraft called Speedlight Alpha was there monitoring the explosion, and it got so close that it had its anti-radiation paint absolutely scorched off. The photo clearly shows the bomb as it exploded, and it is said that this bomb was 5,000 times stronger than the ones that were dropped on Japan during World War II. That's not to say that those ones weren't strong, because they were absolutely devastating. It's just an example to show how large this one really was. In our number 9 spot today, we have Robert Landsburg. Robert Landsburg was a photographer who was taking pictures of Mount St. Helens when it disastrously erupted on May 18th, 1980. Robert had been in the area taking photos for the days leading up to the eruption in order to document the changes the volcano was going through, which is what led to him being there on the day of this fateful eruption. On the day, he was within just a few miles of the volcano when it erupted, and because of his close proximity, he knew he unfortunately would be unable to escape. Instead of focusing on what would be impossible, Robert took to capturing as many photos as he possibly could before he tucked his camera away inside of his bag and placed his body on top of the bag. If he wasn't going to survive, he wanted to make sure that his work did. His body was found 17 days later with his backpack still underneath him. His film was of course developed and has provided geologists with some really valuable insights with his close documentation of the eruption. This is just one example of how brave many photographers really are. In our number 8 spot today, we have Hari Babu. This is a photo from 1991 and is of Rajiv Gandhi, who was the 6th Prime Minister of India. He took office after his mother had been assassinated, and he was the youngest Prime Minister at only 40 years old. This photo was taken by a 21-year-old local photographer named Hari Babu, but little did everyone know, this would be the last photo he took and the last photo ever taken of Rajiv. Moments after this photo was taken, the woman in the bottom left corner with the orange flowers in her hair approached Rajiv, and when she bent down to touch his feet, she detonated a belt of explosives that she had on under her dress. This explosion ended up killing her, Rajiv, Hari Babu, and around 13 other people. Hari Babu's camera ended up staying intact throughout the blast, and this is how they were able to retrieve this photo. In our number 7 spot today, we have Darsh Patel. Darsh Patel was 22 years old and a student at Rutgers when he was hiking in New Jersey with 4 of his friends in 2014. As he was hiking, he encountered a 300-pound bear, which he snapped a series of photos of. Unfortunately, it was this exact bear that later chased and mauled him, which eventually ended up taking his life. The series of images he took of the bear prior to this terrible incident show the bear slowly walking towards the group, with the bear seemingly getting closer with each shot. Once the bear got close enough, the group split into different directions, and when the other 4 met up later, they realized that they couldn't find Darsh, and they called the police. After a 2-hour search, the police found his body with the same bear lingering nearby. The photos of the bear were recovered from his phone that was found near him, with tooth marks from the bear crushed into it. In our number 6 spot today, we have Jia LIJUN. A Chinese businessman named Jia tried to take a selfie with a very large walrus that was located at a zoo in China, but it turned out to be an absolutely terrible incident. It is said that this specific walrus was his favorite, as he had visited it on multiple occasions and had taken photos and videos of it prior, which he shared with family and friends. For whatever reason, on this particular day, when he entered the gated housing area to snap a photo with the walrus, when he got close, she grabbed him from behind and dragged him into the pool. From here, both Jia as well as the on-site zookeeper who had cared for this walrus since she was a baby lost their lives in the water. It is said that the walrus just wanted to play a game and give a sort of a hug, and I mean, after all, how would she know that humans and water aren't the best combination? Unfortunately, there was also surveillance footage of the event that went viral on social media. In our number 5 spot today, we have Alexander CHECHIK. Alexander was a man who passed away while taking a photo of himself. He is said to have been taking a photo of himself holding a grenade, which he had pulled the pin out of to take the photos to post. He allegedly tried to put the pin back in, but that obviously failed, and it has since been reported that he had the idea in his head that the grenade wouldn't explode unless he threw it. He had sent the photos of him with the grenade to his friends, so it was clear the entire thing wasn't a planned event, but rather a horrible accident. Some of the texts recovered from his phone show his friends trying to warn him of the danger surrounding the stunt before the terrible outcome occurred. In our number 4 spot today, we have RAMANDEEP SINGH. In 2014, RAMANDEEP was attempting to take a selfie with a gun when it unexpectedly went off and ended up claiming his life. It is said that he was pointing the gun at himself when he went to click the camera button, but instead set the gun off, which did not have the safety on. This was just a terrible reminder of the increasing percent of selfie-related deaths, with recently released statistics at the time showing that in the 3 years before this incident, India was the home of 19 different situations similar to this one. It is just a reminder to us all that no social media post is worth our safety. In our number 3 spot today, we have Anna URSU. In 2015, Anna and a friend went to a train station in order to capture a very specific selfie that was intended to be posted to Facebook. The pair wanted the photo to be taken on top of one of the trains, but this sadly resulted in dire consequences. As Anna laid on top of the train and stuck one of her legs in the air, an electrical field surrounding the cables that were overhead ended up sending 27,000 volts of electricity zapping through her body. This caused her to burst into flames, and despite the best efforts of everyone around her, she sadly lost her life. The charge was so powerful that the friend who was there to take the photo was sent flying as it happened. Despite the fact that Anna never actually touched the wires, the electrical field was more than enough for tragedy to strike. In our number 2 spot today, we have HILDA CLAYTON. HILDA CLAYTON was a combat photographer whose last image is an exceptionally striking one. HILDA took the photo during a live fire training exercise on July 2nd, 2013 in Afghanistan. During this training, a mortar tube accidentally exploded, and it led to the lives of HILDA along with 4 other Afghan National Army soldiers being taken. HILDA was only 22 years old when this incident took place, and since her passing, it has been said by the military review that, quote, "Clayton's death symbolizes how female soldiers are increasingly exposed to hazardous situations in training and in combat on par with their male counterparts." The final photo of HILDA's was published 4 years after her passing with the permission of her family, and there's also now a combat photography award that has been named in her honor. In our number 1 spot today, we have DANISH SIDDIQUI. Reuters photojournalist DANISH SIDDIQUI was just 38 years old when he was killed at the start of the Taliban's offensive strike to retake Afghanistan. It is believed that he may have been injured from shrapnel from a rocket while he was covering a fight between Taliban and Afghanistan commandos. From there, it is believed that he was left behind by the retreating Afghan army before he fell into the hands of the Taliban. From here, only the worst ensued, with absolutely horrifying details being released in the news. DANISH was a Pulitzer Prize winner and clearly an extremely dedicated and talented professional. His family has said, quote, "DANISH was not only an outstanding professional, but also a wonderful human being who captured the truth through his lens." Alright, starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the reflecting pool. This is one of the creepiest or most chilling images ever taken. It depicts a young girl in a graveyard who is looking down at her reflection in a pond. Okay, maybe a little eerie, but not exactly chilling. What really makes this photo what it is, however, that there are seemingly 2 different reflections looking back up at the little girl. No one knows who this girl is, where she is, or when this photo was taken, but it is estimated to have come from somewhere around the early 1900s. This photo was analyzed, and it has been said that it is unaltered or edited. Who knows how this photo was possible? Maybe there was some sort of invisible entity standing beside her that we could only see the reflection of, like a reverse vampire or something.
Coming in at number 9, we have telescope ghouls. Whoa, 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 look up at the top of the James Webb Space Telescope. Do you see what I see? Are these the ghosts of dead astronauts or technicians? Or maybe they're alien apparitions? This photo by NASA's Chris Gunn is incredible, and he has aptly aptly titled it Ghosts and Mirrors for obvious reasons. So it turns out that the picture taken in the Goddard Space Flight Center's Spacecraft System Development and Integration Facility clean room is taken with a super long exposure, all the while ultraviolet lights were being shone over the telescope to look for contamination. Now the result is this spooky picture. Sounds like a reasonable explanation, right? Some may say too reasonable. Joking, but this telescope may well capture some spooky images of its very own in the future. It's the successor to Hubble, and it's off to explore the universe in March 2021. Any Lord of the Rings fans out there, stand up. How much does this exosolar planet look like the Eye of Sauron at number 8? Like, creepily so. Did J.R.R. Tolkien know about the formal hut when he wrote The Lord of the Rings in 1937? If he didn't, perhaps he foreshadowed it. Get a load of this picture. This is Fomalhaut b in orbit around Fomalhaut. The exoplanet is also known as Dagon. It's an extrasolar object and it orbits a star that gives it its name. How far away is this terrifying eye formation? Only 25 light years. The 2012 images from the Hubble Space Telescope are terrifying. The name Dagon in mythology is a Jewish deity that represents a half man, half fish. Just a side note there for you. Coming in at number 7, did NASA capture an alien moon base? And also, did they accidentally release pictures of it? According to some conspiracists, then yeah, they did. Have a look at these and tell me what you think. Is this alien evidence? Conspiracist YouTube channel Secure Team 10 claimed that these images were proof of an alien base on the moon. The YouTube channel has 1.7 million subscribers, so a lot of people are watching their content. Their channel is filled with moon conspiracies, and they think that these images are a smoking gun for NASA. UFologist and hoaxbuster Scott Brando said that the images used by Secure Team 10 were low quality and low resolution. He seemed to think that the images are just an optical illusion. Who knows though? Another classic from the Daily Express, we have alien astronauts caught on camera at number 6. Some think that Mars rover Curiosity captured aliens, others think that it's a widespread conspiracy that humans are already on Mars. The first manned Mars mission is set to begin within the next 10 years, but some are saying that the photos taken by Curiosity and published by NASA already show that there are humans on the red planet. Some people think that these shadow images show astronauts working on the rover to repair it. Others say that the droids show humanoid looking aliens. Now the conspiracists say that NASA didn't realize how much they were showing when the images were released into the public domain. So is it aliens or are humans already up on Mars? If so, why would that be hidden from us? Or do these pictures have a more logical explanation? UFO conspiracist good old Scott C. Waring said that this just goes to show the public that the rover is being maintained by humans on Mars and that there are other spacecraft kept secret from the public that can carry peers to Mars in just a few minutes. You know what, Scott? I don't know about that one. Okay, these Death Eaters living out there in space terrify me at number 5. The Harry Potter fans in this video will probably be just as freaked out by this as I am. I don't like them. Get a load of what is lurking in the mist of the Carina Nebula. To me, these are straight up Death Eaters waiting to suck out my soul, but actually, they're supposed to be knots of dark molecular gas. Knots of dark molecular gas waiting to suck out my soul, right? These clouds of gas surround the Great Nebula in Carina, which used to be one of the brightest stars in the sky in the 1800s, but now it's significantly faded. This maybe lends credence to my whole sucking theory, right? Okay, fine, they probably aren't Death Eaters, but still, they're spooky. This picture freaks me out. Coming into number 4, we have the Hand of God. NASA released this X-ray image of light detected by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory in 2014. Can you see why they called it the Hand of God? Because it kind of looks like, you know. So this is actually a pulsar wind nebula, a stellar corpse that spins rapidly, firing a particle wind. NASA themselves are mystified by the shape. Alongside the image on their website, they wrote, "One of the big mysteries of this object is whether the pulsar particles are interacting with the material in a specific way to make it look like a hand, or if the material is in fact shaped like a hand." Now a lot of people do genuinely believe that this is God's mark in the universe, like the eye that cropped up earlier. Now I'm not too convinced, but I'd love to know what you think. We have a famous Mars picture that caused a stir at number 3. We have Bigfoot on Mars. Mars's now defunct robot rover Spirit captured this image in late 2007. Who this? A Rudy Nudie alien lady or Bigfoot? Either way, aliens, right? This image boosted the life on Mars discussion, with many conspiracists saying that this image was proof. NASA explained the image is simply the pareidolia phenomena. This is where humans see faces when they aren't there. Analyzing Spirit's image, if this was an alien, it'd be pretty small, according to Phil Platt of Bad Astronomy website. Anyway, NASA says it's nothing more than a Martian rock, although NASA would say that, wouldn't they? Probably because it is just a rock, right? Coming into number 2, we have this screaming skull. It's pretty terrifying. This screaming skull was another of NASA's Halloween releases, this time from the year 2000. The haunting image was taken from the orbiting Chandra Observatory and is one of a cluster of galaxies known as Perseus. You can see Perseus right here in X-ray vision. The Perseus cluster contains thousands upon thousands of galaxies, so we can't really truly comprehend this picture. It's just much more than a spooky picture than what looks like a skull. It's a lot going on there. While the image is already pretty spooky, it gets scarier when you realize that the bright spot in the X-ray is a black hole. Not to worry though, this scary skull cluster is 320 million light years away. Finally, at number 1, we have a truly iconic and somewhat infamous picture, the Viking 1 faces on Mars. This is one of the most famous NASA images out there and has been used as absolute fuel to conspiracy theorists' fire over the past 40 years. That was since the picture was taken in July 1976. The snap was taken by NASA's Viking 1 spacecraft and seemed to show the shadowy likeness of a human face, only this face is 2 miles long. Taken in the Cydonia region of Mars, the image was sent back to mission controllers at the Jet Propulsion Lab. At the time, theorists went wild, saying that it was evidence of an ancient civilization on Mars. Now the image did quite look like an Egyptian pharaoh after all. NASA explained that the image was just a Martian messer with the sunlight playing tricks. NASA later went back with the Mars orbiter camera, but people simply explained the lack of face that time by saying that it was a cloudy day and the alien detail couldn't be seen. I don't know, I'm thinking it probably was just a trick of the light.
Starting off this countdown, we have these space monkeys. If you're an animal lover, then this one is gonna break your heart. Before sending humans into space, animals were launched into space to see how space travel would affect them. They typically chose primates for their close relation to humans. Obviously, looking back at that is hella messed up. A number of monkeys sadly passed away from these tests. I mean, the first monkey sent into space died from suffocation. There's photos of him being prepped and getting ready for space, and now looking at those photos, it's just hella disturbing. So now NASA has removed all the photos they have of their test subjects. They don't want people finding out their controversial past. Of course, you can still find these photos online today, but NASA still has tried to cover it up. In our 9th spot, we have Victor Barrio. But before we go any further, if you guys are liking this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and of course, subscribe to our channel. Come on guys, it really helps us out, so hit that button, subscribe, ring that little bell. Victor Barrio was a 29-year-old Spanish bullfighter. Sadly, on July 9th, 2016, his bullfighting days came to an end when a 529-kilogram bull's horn pierced through his chest. This moment was captured in front of a live audience and also was broadcasted on live TV. Some people managed to get photos as this happened and it's horrifying. You can see the look of pain on his face as the bull's horn just plunges through him. Like, I feel so bad for him and for all the people that had to witness it. It's so scary. In our 8th spot, we have the Panama hikers. Chris Kremers and Lizanne Froon were 2 young Dutch females that saved up to take a trip to Panama. Except while on a hike in the Panamanian jungle, the 2 disappeared. It wasn't until months later that their bodies were found, but it's still unclear how the 2 died. The last photos taken of them were in April of 2014, the day that they went on the hike. They are selfies of the girls looking very excited to be on the trip. These photos were found on their camera, which was found in a backpack along the banks of a river. The camera also contained other pictures, like of the jungle in the dead of night. Maybe they were using the camera's flash as a source of light. Another photo showed the back of Chris's head and it was bleeding. Again, it's so scary looking at these photos. Like, these poor young girls had no clue what was about to happen to them and they were so excited for their trip. Coming in at number 7, we have the drowning. On October 22nd, 2003, Tina Watson and her husband, David Gabriel, went out scuba diving on their honeymoon. They just got married 11 days earlier, and scuba diving was part of their honeymoon itinerary. Now, in the this photo, if you look right at the back, you can see a diver laying on the seafloor. That's Tina Watson. A few minutes before this photo was taken, it's believed that her husband turned off her air supply and held her underwater until she drowned. Then he swam up to the surface to alert other divers that she was in trouble. The photo was captured accidentally, and you can see the divers going to help Tina. Some say he held her underwater until she drowned. Others say he saw her struggling as a new scuba diver and just kind of left her there to die on her own. Either way, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter, and that was the last photo ever taken of her. In our 6th spot, we have the DYATLOV Pass incident. In February of 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers set out to traverse the snowy mountains of Siberia. However, they all ended up mysteriously dying one by one. This photo was one of the last photos taken of them. Now, this case has been debated about for years, and there's tons of theories as to what happened to them. Some say they were hit by an avalanche at night and died from exposure. Others say a Yeti got them. In fact, there was a picture of a creature that looks like a Yeti found on one of the explorers' cameras. But it's a very odd case. Like, their tent was found ripped open from the inside, 2 bodies were found and they were only wearing underwear in the freezing cold. Another explorer's body was missing her tongue, eyes, and lips, and 2 of the other bodies had major chest fractures. To cause someone that much damage, it would be like equivalent to a car crash. And another hiker had a really high level of radiation on their clothes. It's just crazy, and to this day we don't know what truly happened. We all have these theories, but the only ones that really know are the hikers in the photo. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the submarine murder. Back in August of 2013, freelance journalist Kim Wall got an interview with Danish inventor Peter Madsen. As part of the interview, Kim was set to take a trip on his homemade submarine. This photo shows Kim aboard the submarine just before her trip. Sadly, once inside, Peter killed her and dismembered her body. Why did he do this? Well, some say he became fascinated with murder and torture. Evidence showed that he had been watching videos of women being killed on his computer, and shortly before he beheaded Kim, he watched a video on it. So it was clear that he had a fascination with it. It's sad that Kim had to be his victim. In our 4th spot, we have the Facebook murder. A couple of hours after this picture was taken, Cheyenne Anton left, used the black belt she is seen wearing in that photo to strangle Brittany Gargle. The 2 were best friends, but apparently got into a heated argument, and Cheyenne hit and strangled Brittany. Imagine taking a selfie with someone you thought you could trust just for them to go and kill you a couple hours later. It is so sick. Now, Cheyenne actually got away with this murder for 2 years until police finally found this photo on her Facebook and noticed that the belt that she was wearing was the same one found at the crime scene. She then pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Moving on to number 3, we have parkour gone wrong. Pavel Kashin was known for his dangerous stunts and abilities. In 2013, he challenged himself to do a backflip on the edge of a 16-floor building. He successfully completed the backflip, but as he landed, he lost his footing and fell over the edge. He died instantly. This photo was captured by his friend while he was performing the stunt. You can see he's in mid-air doing his trick. Sadly, that was the last stunt he ever performed. And at number 2, we have the Stalker. On February of 2017, best friends Abby Williams and Libby German headed out for a hike in Indiana. This photo is of Abby Williams, taken right before they were both murdered. What's very disturbing is that in the background of these photos, you can literally see their killer lurking there. Apparently, the man was stalking them for quite some time, and in the girl's photo roll, they actually got some pictures of him, probably because they felt like he was following them. So in the last photo ever taken of Abby, you can literally see her killer behind her. It makes me so sick. Worst of all, he's never been caught. There's currently a reward for anyone that can identify the man though, so hopefully they can get some justice soon. And in our number 1 spot, we have the gruesome scene. This photo is going to send shivers down your spine. But before I show you, let me give you a quick backstory. So this photo was taken of Travis Alexander while he was taking a shower. It was taken by his girlfriend and murderer Jody shortly before she stabbed him 27 to 29 times. She also slit his throat nearly ear to ear and shot him in the head. It was a very gruesome and sinister murder. In this photo, you can see how uncomfortable Travis looks. It's almost as if he knew she was up to something. He looks absolutely terrified. Now, the camera that captured this photo was actually tossed into his washing machine as an attempt to destroy it. But it didn't work, and some of the photos were still salvageable, like this one and one that she took of Travis's dead, bloody body. I saw it. You don't want to see it.